Hey there, greetings everybody. I'm Gerd Leonhardt, futurist. It's a great pleasure to be with you today for the show on augmented reality, virtuality, and the metaverse, the darn metaverse, as I've been saying lately. So what is happening with all that stuff? I mean, what a hype on the metaverse, right? On augmented reality and virtuality, trillions of dollars being shoveled around. Where's all that going? So we're going to have a discussion. I would try to restrain myself and not speak the entire time. We're streaming live on YouTube and LinkedIn. Anything you put in there for comments is seen by everybody else. Keep that in mind. If you want to have a chat with us, please put your comments right there on YouTube and LinkedIn. We're going to pick out the comments later. We'll display them, and then we'll have a discussion. It should take about 15 hours. No, just kidding, 15 minutes for my presentation. It's really great to have all of you here. This is GerdTalks number 9. If you want to see all the other GerdTalks, we have a series, of course, on this, GerdTalks.com, and of course here on YouTube. Okay, let's start with this. People think about virtuality often like this, like the TV on your head, and I think this is the most important realization about virtuality. As long as we have to have a box on our head, I think we're not going to get very far with this concept. And as long as that box costs $1,000 or even $300, and I need a 1 gigabyte connection, we're quite in limited turf here, right? So let's think about the metaverse and virtuality, not just based on the virtuality headset, but in a larger way. I think the most exciting thing about virtuality is this. I can be somewhere else, right? I can be somebody else. I can literally virtually change and learn how to fly and be in different places. I think it's very exciting. A big chunk of science fiction history, right? Of course. I often talk about virtuality. And I think when we talk about virtuality, the definition of that is so that existing in the mind only, a product of imagination, and the opposite of reality, right? A manufactured, self-designed, simulated experience. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see what happens here. The main danger, of course, is that we may escape into this virtual reality and never come back. It's one thing if we do that for gaming or watching a movie, which is a form of escapism. But imagine if we lived there. And this is kind of what the proponents of the metaverse, starting with Zuck, which I'll comment on, my favorite comment on Zuck and his mastery later on. But this is what things that we keep hearing about the metaverse, right? I think it's really about two things: virtual reality and augmented reality, mixed reality. Microsoft HoloLens comes to mind, right? This kind of concept of having information on your eyeglasses, I find that to be very interesting, and also, to be sure, socially disruptive. But maybe this is primarily a business tool. And I've been thinking that a lot about that lately. I mean, if you're a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer or law enforcement, right? Yeah. So is this a good thing for humans to have this? Is it superpower, right? Or is it primarily mostly business to business? But Apple is coming out with augmented reality glasses, and I think we can expect them to be pretty cool. Personally, of course, I'm an Apple fan, but I'm going to watch this with a little bit of distance if I can. My Apple Watches really haven't come to fruition to a large degree. I haven't used them. But this little clip here from the future of augmented reality on YouTube shows kind of the use cases here, and I think that's going to be extremely powerful. In fact, it may just be too powerful in the sense of, once you get to do this, would you want to go back to your boring reality without being augmented? Of course, the same could be said about the mobile phone or the television, but this is different, right? This is much more exponentially powerful. And I think the really important thing about what we're seeing about the metaverse of virtual reality is those 5 points here, right? Real-time 3D, immersive reality, and of course, spatial audio. I mean, this is the big deal, right? Spatial audio, if you're a musician like me, you want audio to come from the sides, not just from the front, And of course, all that stuff, including the idea of built-in crypto commerce and NFTs, that's an explosive mix. But it's also a tall order in terms of technology. So I wouldn't be so sure that we're going to fulfill that anytime soon, especially in India or Brazil or Indonesia, where their infrastructure really isn't ready for 5G throughput of that sort. The CEO and the CIO of Intel said the other day, we need 1,000x computing power to make this happen. So right now, this is still very much sort of a construct, and a great graph here from Gardner about the elements of a metaverse. Basically, on the one hand, digital currency, marketplace, non-fungible tokens, infrastructure, gaming, and on the other hand, business model, concerts, social entertainment events. Yeah, I think powerful stuff. Will it change the world and create a new creator economy? I kind of doubt it. I think it'll be the same for creators pretty much as it was all along, which is that it's a tough gig. But the elements of a metaverse have to be understood to value the input. Let's go back a little bit in time. This is obviously The Sims, for quite, 20 years ago, and Second Life also 20 years ago, and still going. And check out Second Life today. It's actually still very much popping. And this is Minecraft, the game, which has been a metaverse to a large degree. The Roblox, this is Jennifer, what's her name? Britney Spears, yes, on Roblox. I'm not very up on pop stars, I have to admit. And of course, the Gucci Roblox metaverse for buying a fake or a artificial virtual bag. Horizon Workrooms for collaboration, very powerful stuff, I think, for better calls in the future. And of course, Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Mesh. But I think really the most important part of our future is that our dogs can finally be in virtual reality. I think that's going to be really important. Just kidding. Just figured I would throw that in there. But now we have companies already looking at things like being able to have the smell in the metaverse, right? To actually smell things. And I think this is a mind-boggling concept. And the possibility of a virtual kiss using a sort of tactile interface, right? I mean, we're getting out there, right? But it's everywhere, and I think the use cases are really quite obvious, as we're looking at what is possible there. Meetings, training, event, learning, R&D, manufacturing, digital twins. The professionals in the gold collar, I learned that term yesterday. I love that term, gold collar. You're making a mint, right? Gold collar, doctors, lawyers, maybe law enforcement. They're not making a mint, but definitely in the collars. Sports, media, and entertainment. Obvious, right? Like soccer, football. I mean, this is interesting to be immersed in there. Again, the main question is like, is it going to be good for us to immerse that deeply? And is it going to construct another digital divide? People can't participate. And shopping and e-commerce, I don't quite see it as strong as other people do. I think that is, having a nice website with a holographic pop out. I can see that, right? Is it going to be a big thing where I buy non-fungible tokens to buy e-commerce with? I don't know. Maybe in Las Vegas you would. Here in Switzerland, I kind of doubt it. I see great use cases here for virtual design and of course for digital twins and manufacturing. So you can observe that. I see the first Metaverse Fashion Week, which was just a few weeks ago, where you had encampments like Tommy Hilfiger showing virtual shopping, really interesting stuff, but obviously mostly about leadership. Barbados has an embassy that they're building in the metaverse. So I don't know how, what's that going to be? I guess you're going to be able to chill in the metaverse on the Barbados before you actually go there. And of course, the Barcelona Football Club is getting into NFTs and creating a virtual environment. Now we have somebody saying here at the FT that football's ultimate future is in the metaverse. Well, that's typical hype language here. The reality of football and soccer is to actually go there and sweat it out, right? But anyway, it's an interesting scenario where this is going. And of course, this one, again, I think it's Facebook Horizons using augmented reality with holograms that are popping out from your desktop, and the mix of those things. The mixed reality to me is a very, very powerful scenario that I can see that becoming ultimately very, very powerful, replacing screens around.
All right.
Yeah.
And these are good things up.
World Beyond.
What do you think of the pass-through, Mark?
It's great. I want to share a little about Project Cambria, the code name for our high-end VR headset that's coming out later this year. Now, I'm not going to show you the headset yet, but you're looking at an experience called the World Beyond.
For very long. I think the next one is much more important. But Project Cambria, that's what he's talking about, is the idea of virtual reality, but with a lesser involved headset, using mostly augmented reality and holographic displays. Powerful stuff. I love this one from Google I/O, showing translation in your augmented reality glasses, right? Just play that trailer, yeah.
You should be seeing what I'm saying, just transcribed for you in real time, kind of like subtitles for the world.
Now imagine that would be extremely powerful. The main problem here is of course not so much the glasses, which Yeah, it's complicated, but it can be done. It's the actual translation, right? I mean, Google Translate is getting much better, but is it real time? Can it be? No, not really. Just try to pronounce my own name, G-E-R-D, Gerd, on Google Translate. It will give you Gerd and turd and nerd and all that other stuff that has nothing to do with my name. So Google Translate is still, yeah, it's at that point where we can say, well, that would be great if I could see it, but would it be accurate, right? Especially in real-time situations. I kind of doubt it. So I want to talk about issues and challenges after all of that fancy tech stuff, the things that we may very well enjoy. You know, the issues and challenges are really quite simple. If you're looking at this picture of Goosebumps, of course, right? People are arguing, like this guy from the Fair Observer says that virtual reality is basically impossible, like perpetual motion, because Peter Isaacson is his name, great article in the Fair Observer. He says that humans are essentially censor everything around us in what's called a single unified experience. So we have the sound and the feeling and the touch and the goosebumps, and you know that we don't have that in VR. We have tiny fraction that is probably overwhelming our visual channels. And I would agree with that. You know, if you're looking at just touching things and moving things around in a human way, that is just completely different than what we would have with a VR headset, right? A lived sensory experience. We don't think with the body, with the brain, we think with the body, right? Neuroscientists call the process sensory fusion. And we don't have that on VR, and we have the opposite. We have sensory confusion. And then his statement at the end is basically saying, it's unfortunate, but we cannot make a consistent world image from partial, delayed, corrupted data. So he's pretty down on the concept of VR being even humanly sustainable and feasible. And I tend to agree that's going to be a tall order. The other thing that's more important is this, right? And we've taken this from a trailer that we've done a little while ago about how addiction is fueling this. And if we put virtual reality and augmented reality on top of this, right, this could really be a problem. We get so used to that anything that is not using it would be utterly boring, right? And also this kind of concept that we have to use technology to create happiness. You know, that's already a big problem on Instagram and on social media. Yeah, happiness is not in the cloud. You will not find it on the screen. You will not find it on your mobile phone. You'll find it with other people, and you find it when you're not looking for it, right? So the happiness kit is just, I mean, the whole discussion is, of course, utterly ridiculous when you look at reality. But look at this chart, you know, worldwide augmented virtual reality headset shipments, commercial and consumer, right? Commercial actually lagging behind is what they say. I think it's the opposite. And content hardware, I mean, basically it's trillions of dollars of potential new income streams. And then we have on the other side of this equation, showing basically the whole idea of what's happening with AI-assisted knowledge workers, you know, paralegals, for example, office and admin support, how they can be 4 times as fast and powerful using AI, and of course AI within virtuality is that is the killer combination, right? So that could be great, could be heaven, or it could be hell, because yeah, I can be kind of superhuman, like Minority Report kind of power, but how would I keep up? And is it still going to allow me to do what I do otherwise, which is to take a breather or to not be observed? High revenue potential, but maybe that's not the same as human flourishing. And especially not if the high revenue isn't distributed to those that may have lost their job to AI or virtual reality, right? So that may lead to further misery in terms of the productivity going up, but the distribution being the same. And so we may have lots of issues like drowning in data and visual input, but being starved of actual relationships and wisdom. If it goes on in this direction, I think this could be quite a major issue, becoming disillusioned with this. And this whole idea of demonization, that everything is intermediated, right? You can't make a date without looking them up online. It's kind of a reductionism and abdication, you know. And I think for that, we're going to need some protection here, you know, to figure out. I mean, imagine this goes the way of the mobile device, yeah, and it goes totally out, basically out there, right? Where we're saying, okay, who's going to protect us? Is it companies making it? I think it's going to be the government. Right? It has to be the government. It has to be ourselves. It has to be user groups. Big discussion right now in Davos on exactly this topic. I'll talk about that in a second. But imagine this issue, right? What we have on social media, we have a filter bubble. Imagine this issue going 1 times 1,000. You know, your reality is being filtered, and you're right inside of it. And who's going to protect us from that? And what are the standards? Are we going to trust Zuck in there, basically data mining and privacy has already gone rampant on the internet and social media. And we're going to have that times 1000x in the virtual world. I think that's not a good future that I would be looking forward to. And clearly, as Zuck keeps telling us what his intent is with all that stuff, right? It's about a time when immersive digital worlds, put the S there, become the primary way we live our lives. Now, that is just so utterly ridiculous, Mark. I have to tell you, that's really not a good idea. The primary way we live our lives, right? I mean, yeah, you can go fencing with your buddies in virtual reality. That is amazing. But, there are people that have other concerns, which is to live in real life. I always say it's about living our actual lives to the fullest extent possible and supporting this effort with amazing tools and technologies. Awesome humans on top of amazing technologies. This kind of idea of education and learning through enhancement, that's one thing, but to actually live there, that strikes me as a rather poor battle plan for the future. So that brings me to the pyramid of work, right? I mean, real human work happens in so many ways that is outside of machine development. So we're looking at what machines are currently doing, machine learning, of course, deep learning. We can safely say the lower part of this pyramid, like Maslow, is a kind of machine turf, right? Intellectual knowledge, data, and information. Machines are starting to get it. And if we want to be somewhere and do work in the future, our job is to be human, as I keep saying in most of my speeches. All of those things on the top, right? That is the meat space, right? You know what the meat space, that's me and you, real life, right? Actual people, the meat space. I love that word, right? Purpose, wisdom, understanding, that's something machines can't do. And I think this would suffer in virtuality because we're thinking that this is the real thing, but it's actually machine turf. And if social media is one indication and then virtuality would be 1,000 times as bad, I think then I would be very careful to figure out where it's going, if we can actually make something with this, or what exactly it's going to do for us. So in many ways, augmented reality, virtuality may be a little bit like bicycles for the mind, but bullets for the soul. And how do we avoid that? I mean, it's coming. We're going to use it. We want to be superhuman, all of us, in some way. We want to be faster, better. Right? How do we find the balance? And that balance is going to be the question of why. And how far should it go? And who's going to protect our humanity, our inefficiency, our non-performance? Right? So I'm afraid that the metaverse could turn the potential, what I call the meta-perverse, and I have a new website, the metaperverse.com, a small one. You'll find out more about that, right? And you'll also get connected on my newsletter if you want to find out more about that. So the meta-perverse, that is a real concern. It's like a perversion of what we had intended to do in the future. And that could very easily grow. So that's my take on augmented reality, virtuality. I think let's go for it, let's embrace it, but let's not become technology, because when we become technology, we become a commodity, right? We become an earpiece, we become technical process, and we lose everything that makes us human. So that was my short thing. Actually, I think I did pretty good on the timing here. You have to applaud me for that, I suppose, right? But anyway, since you're watching and out there, I want to see your comments. Let's see what we have here to see what kind of comments we have. Great. So we're going to bring in some comments here. Okay. So Murat, I'm going to bring you in here, okay? Murat, which metaverse platform is leading? How to combine the different platforms? Well, I think, frankly, the concept of the metaverse being compatible with other metaverses and environments, I think that's a pipe dream. We haven't seen that in technology except for 5G standards, telecom standards. That's not going to happen. I think the compatibility is a major issue. I mean, you would never see competing platforms like Facebook and TikTok, agreeing on a joint platform there. I think really there's a lot of interesting developments in that whole issue area of what I call virtuality. And that, to me, is the most important part. Virtuality meaning everything augmented, mixed, virtual, holograms. Very, very interesting turf. I think there we have leaders like Microsoft HoloLens, which I think it's a great thing, way too expensive. Facebook, I wouldn't trust them, so I'm not going to say bad things about Facebook anymore, but that to me is just a no-go. The fact that Mark wanted to switch the company from Facebook to Meta is sort of a last exit scenario in my view. We have lots of interesting stuff happening from NVIDIA, working with IBM and car manufacturers for digital twins, very powerful things. We have stuff coming from Sony for virtual entertainment, VR, metaverses for football, for games. I mean, all that stuff to me is a lot more real than the idea of living in a virtual world just because it can be monetized. You know? Well, thank you very much for your question. So we have a comment here from Joyce. Let me see what we got here. Yeah, okay, here, great question. Marcus Parade. Okay, thank you, Marcus. Sorry, I have to look down there to actually see that. I'm going to have to fix that. But do I see exhibitions in the metaverse? Absolutely. I think, again, keep in mind that what we do in virtual environments is a simulation of real life. So it is kind of like dating. You know, we can do online dating. We can find the perfect match, so to speak. Not that I would do that. I'm been married twice. I'm still married, but so I'm not doing that. But basically, as we're doing online dating, we can find the perfect match. But after 20 seconds of a real life meeting, we just know the reality, right? And it doesn't make online dating bad. It's just a process of the next step. And I think exhibitions in the metaverse will be exactly like this. I'm going to be able to go through the exhibit hall and look at giant machines that would be too expensive for me to travel and to look at it. And then when I have an opportunity, I will actually see it. I will talk to actual people. So I think that is a lot like virtual conferencing and events. That's kind of heating us up for the real event, you know, which hopefully will have to be much better than before. The bar has gone up, right? I mean, the bar for actual events is going up. Are we going to live in a world that is completely hybrid? Yes, absolutely. 9 billion people will be on the internet in 2030. And devices are getting cheaper, and 5G, 7G, 10G, right? Ubiquitous connectivity. And that means we're going to go virtual in so many ways. But the human connection is identified through experiences, right? Through emotions, through engagements, through all the stuff that we do together. And I think this is where exhibitions come in, and they will have a very powerful place in that, albeit not in the same way as before. So it should be interesting to see truly hybrid products emerging. And for example, the IAA show, the car show, IAA Mobility, where I spoke last year, already had a lot of very similar scenarios and pointing in the same direction of the hybrid future. Totally clear. Thanks for your question there. So, okay, let's have another question. VR dating is around the corner. Well, that's a good one. I would totally agree on that. But, you know, in the end, I don't know, can you have a VR experience? I mean, remember that film, Blade Runner 2046, where the main character at the end, or I think the middle of the film, is out there with his holographic girlfriend, and then he gives her a super boost by buying this gizmo to bring her down from the ceiling. And then when the power goes out, she's gone, and he's just utterly lonely, right? VR dating can be interesting. It's a good exercise, but you know, how real is it? And what will it actually do for us? And will it detach us? I think the biggest fear I would have is that it leads to more reductionism, less involvement, less engagement. Watch the clip from Salesforce from, I think this was the Super Bowl commercial, right? Where it's a great commercial that talks about some companies want us to disengage and to escape, and they say we should engage. And I think that is just so true, especially if you're in marketing or sales or your company has a big brand. It's about engagement. Can we find that here? Maybe it's a stepping stone. I don't know, but I'm kind of hesitant to look at this as the biggest thing. Huh? Okay, Aravinda, I'm going to put you up here. Okay, Aravinda Loshan, is there any possibility augmented reality hardware, which is socially acceptable, be a reality with the use of silicon electronic? Totally. But like I said before, you know, we can project things on our glasses, but the question is, what is in it? And what sense does it make? I mean, if I'm driving, I'm using Google Maps, I can see it maybe in my smart car display. That's one thing. Maybe I can see it here, or I can see it on the screen. That is a plus, right? But if I'm going to see every person's LinkedIn profile as I'm walking through the halls of a conference, is that a plus? Or does it make me feel like I'm an automaton? You know, when I'm dating, and we've seen these things, of course, on Black Mirror and many other comedy type things, you know, where we see superimposed information that's confusing us. Is that going to be good for us? And will it be socially acceptable? I think those are very big questions. Technology will be there to do that. I'm really excited about Apple going in that direction, but I do wonder what kind of products we'll see there and how we're going to adopt this socially. And maybe it will remove us more from reality, because I can't see how we're going to see all that stuff on our eyeglasses and still have an engaged conversation. I don't know if you've noticed, read the reports on this, but reports on the mobile phone usage and the smartphone usage have shown that if you put your phone on the table while you're having dinner, not using it, just the presence of the phone on the table materially changes the conversation. That's why I try to always put it away when I'm meeting with people, or we're having dinner, of course, with the family as well. How would that work with those glasses? Could I be suspicious that somebody's looking at me with those glasses? Those are big social issues. We shouldn't just rush into this, but I think we need to investigate this. Otherwise, we'll end up again with social media, which has become, from being a bit of a godsend, you know, something we've all hoped for, to being a plague, you know, to being toxic, right? Magic, manic, toxic, as I like to keep saying. All right, so Joyce, yes, thanks for being here, Joyce. Joyce Gaia, she has a new book called The Experience Rules. Thank you, good point. Maybe you can post the link here later, or, okay. So Joyce saying there's no, okay, let me hide this other one. There's no substitute for two human beings being in the same physical space. And I think that is just so true. And we should also not forget that this is who we are until we change who we are, which some people want, you know, singularity, transhumanism kind of concept. We do away with that unnecessary stuff so we can just be our intelligence in a dish. You know, I think that would be not human. I'd rather not do that. So very good point, Joyce. Thanks very much. Okay, we're having another comment here. Let me just hide this other one here. Nadia Mandel, I'll bring this here. We're building a digital fashion platform. Okay, I'm going to show this. Okay, yeah. In the metaverse, excited to see digital fashion and brands expanding. Do I have any opinions on digital fashion wearables? Well, you know, I think it's a little bit like if you go into the gaming universe and you become a gamer that is really, I've never done that deep, but if you're a gamer that's really inside of the gaming thing, this is completely obvious to you, right? You're living inside of there. This is your experience. People are real. And this is, of course, also the problem. This is why addiction is such a big problem. But fashion, I think this could be amazing to try out things. And would I buy things there? I think I would buy physical things that I have tried on that look good, that if they were done cleverly. I'm a big fan of the Icebreaker brand, for example. So if I try that on virtually, then I could maybe buy some more. That would be great. Would I buy digital things? I probably wouldn't. You know, social commerce, also digital commerce and social spaces is big in China, very big, billions in China. Would we do that here in Switzerland? I kind of doubt it. Would we do it in Canada? Maybe. It's a question of age. I don't know. It's very hard to say. I think fashion and the metaverse is a very good match. I would not bet very much on people actually wearing this outfit to give me $5,000 for a virtual bag. That's not going to be a mass market. I think having enhanced websites, holograms, augmented reality, gamification, clearly that's the way to go. Again, the big question to me, is it going to be humanly worthwhile? Right? And is it going to be a good thing for us to have? So a lot of these things are ethical questions, clearly, to where we have to just answer and find out, you know, how that's going to fit with our brand and where that's going. Right? So LinkedIn user, what are your thoughts on the Star Trek NG holodeck? That's a good one. You know, I love Star Trek, the only positive science fiction story. Well, there are a few other ones, but very few. On that note, by the way, do not forget Kim Stanley Robinson and his latest book. Robinson, right? Kim, KSR, whatever, right? His book is called Ministry for the Future. And you should definitely take a look if you're thinking about all these things, pointing us into the right direction. But anyway, what do I think about that? Well, I think this is technology will be there. Can we humanly actually understand it? Will it confuse us? Will it kill us? I was in Turkey 2 weeks ago. Great event. You can see it on my YouTube channel. I talked about digital obesity, becoming digitally bloated, fat, overloaded, underloved. Right? And then I made a little animation from this the other day with my team that says one hug is worth more than 1,000 Zoom calls. And this may be a little bit old-fashioned, but I think we're heading into a direction where that becomes a distinct possibility that this may threaten humanity in the sense of removing us from the flow of actual reality. So it's a big question I have there. It's not like a black or white answer. I'm going to try everything. Well, not everything, within reasons. Right? So, Joyce, thank you for the comment, Joyce. I'm going to bring this in here. I'm a role model. Well, okay. Well, thank you. I'm trying my best. Thanks, Joyce. Thanks for being here today. Okay. So let's go to Alexandra Daders. Okay. People will buy everything in the metaverse like a second world. It will be a parallel economic system. I'm not sure about that. I think this is a question of culture and paraphrasing Peter Drucker, culture eats technology for breakfast. And culture is going to be the dominating fact here, whether we do this and how we do it. And I think before any big brand goes full bore and spending billions in the metaverse, I would ask that question, does it fit our culture? Does it fit our brand? In the end, the human connection is what really matters. And can it be furthered through this? And this is a really important, this debate goes back to television, right? Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. Was television bad for humanity? Well, in many cases it was, right? But we adapted and something new grew from it. Will virtual reality spell the end of real reality? That is a big question that we should investigate in a separate show, or maybe you have some comments on this, but I definitely feel like that is a distinguished possibility that, we may end up in a place where we can lose that. Right? I'm gonna hide this one. So Christian Stöb, thank you for coming in here. I want to show this here. iPad is a little bit slow. Christian Stob, what new dimensions will the metaverse open for sustainability? Well, that is a fantastic question, I think. Thank you very much. I think understanding all the complex climate change issues, understanding technology, understanding how it works together, that we can learn that in VR. And we can, of course, control big industrial apparatuses through digital twins. I think VR and AI and big data and what I call the game changers are the key, of course, to big green. In fact, I keep saying that green is the new digital. You can see that here on my YouTube channel as well. Powerful stuff. I think virtual reality is going to allow us to understand it, to see context. Zoom back to Minority Report, by the scene where he grabs data out of everything and just puts it all together, allowing us to really understand stuff and to communicate. That's going to be powerful. It may be too much of a good thing, so that we are kind of looking at education as an example. Like, we can learn a lot here, but real education is physical, right? Real education is physical experiences. And also means going out to nature, what some people call the nature deficit disorder. This is not just all just in our head or in our eyes or in our vision, right? That's much more complex than that. So I think we need to be careful about this part. It will provide great benefit, but sometimes when you have too many benefits, it becomes too much, right? Too much of a good thing can be a very bad thing. Look at social media, a big theme in my work. How do we prevent that? We're going to need wise governance on this. And I think we're going to see a lot of regulation on virtuality and also on the whole privacy issue. And the Digital Services Act of the European Commission has pointed this way towards, of course, AI and to some degree virtuality. We're going to see a lot more of that, I think, in the near future. So let's see, do we have anything else? Daniel K. Hatton, do you think there's still room for 360 video? Absolutely, 360 video is different. Seeing a 360 video on a regular device is still very powerful, like in real estate. I've looked at many houses that I was looking at, through this sort of new way of doing things. And I think the interface of wearing this bucket, even if it's just glasses, I think that is still not the natural interface. And Elon Musk is promising us, of course, the brain-computer interface, the BCI, and the Neuralink that he's putting out there. And I think that idea is truly crazy. It's to put wires in our heads so we can communicate with computers. Yeah, maybe you'll be the first one to try it. I don't know, but yeah, maybe if you had an accident and you can't do anything, then it's maybe justified, right? So it's one of those things where I'm really concerned about how that will all hang together. So 360 video is here to stay, and that's still very powerful stuff, especially on mobile devices. It's really quite different, technically speaking, in terms of what it takes to look at virtuality there, right? So let's see, I want to show this other one. Okay. So Vladimir Kuparinen, the metaverse concept is about control of digital universe by the new gatekeepers like Zuck. How could people unite in data cooperatives in order to protect our personal data? The Finnish minister in Davos spoke about this. I know that, this is a major topic. I think the reality is that anything that's this large scale requires huge computing power, huge staff of AI, huge machine learning and stuff is going to be dominated by big brands that can do this because they monetize, in a large way. Facebook makes $160 million profit every single day. Let's say they used to make that, now that have less stock market relevance. I warned about that 5 years ago. But the bottom line is, I think this is basically digital feudalism, as has been said many times before. And the virtual reality and metaverse or any of those inventions isn't going to change that. To make that idea democratized, and just like the creator economy, requires policy approaches. Right? It doesn't require technology only. I always say in my keynotes, we will have all the tools, all the tech, all the science. I'm dead sure of that. But will we have the telos, the wisdom, the purpose, the collaboration? That's what it comes down to. I look forward to a future of virtuality where that becomes a powerful tool for self-expression, for commerce, for the creator economy, for learning, but not a tool that removes me from myself or that substitutes me from, actually being there in person. This is so important that, we embrace technology, we don't become technology. Like I've been saying many times in my book, in the past, I'm going to bring in that graphic. You got to see that graphic because we have this fancy graphic. My book, Technology versus Humanity, has become something that is basically 6 years ago talked about all that stuff. So do take a good look at this if you enjoy reading a book. Okay. So Christian Stroop again. Are regulators ready for the metaverse? No. But regulators are getting a lot faster and picking up on stuff. And I think this is really a powerful development. I congratulate many regulators, especially in Europe, for being more on the ball. I said many times, politicians and leaders have to have a driver's license for the future, a future test, right? They have to be future ready. I think if we had a future test today in Switzerland, Germany, Austria, how many people would pass that? I'm not so sure. I think we do have some good people here in Switzerland that do that, including our Minister of Health, who's done great work in the COVID pandemic. Anyway, this is one of the things where we really have to teach people what that means before we go rush headlong into it. Technology is morally neutral until we use it, William Gibson. And that has been said so many more times about how exactly that could all hang together. We need to be sure that we understand it, right? Because now basically the future isn't about tomorrow anymore, as I keep saying. The future is here. The future is not just up there somewhere. We are creating the future every single day. Right? On that note, I wanted to mention, if you are not following me on Twitter yet, this is G. Leonhardt, and of course my YouTube channel. You're on the YouTube channel probably, so be sure to subscribe. I'm collecting subscribers there. Do we have more questions? Let me have a quick look here. Otherwise, okay, here, Marcus Parade. Thank you, Marcus. Do you see digital encounters as having superior advantages in contrast to real meetings? That is a very interesting question. I think really what is happening here is that they are so different that they're hard to compare. When I meet a person in real life, it takes 20, 30 seconds to estimate the other person. We have an immediate connection. We're like-minded, soulmates or whatever you want to call it. That is all happening in like no time flat. And on the web, I can jump from one to the other. I can be sort of superfluous, and that has advantages. But I think really this is important that we don't mix the two too much. Virtual meetings are great, but they're only great for certain things. There's been great research on nature.com, again, a couple of weeks ago. Nature.com had a great article about how creative work is very difficult remotely. And I think anything that really matters in our future, I mean, we're going from abstraction to creation, right? From the atoms to the bits. So it's going to be about creation. And I think we should not underestimate the difference that creative work and working together and learning together in real life makes, as opposed to in virtual life. That is not to knock the virtual life. This is saying, I'm going to stay on here. I'm going to stay here with the green light, but I'm still traveling and I still enjoy meeting people. It's just so different. And so it's not an either or scenario. Most of the answers about the future aren't just black or white answers. Okay. So that was a great show. It's one of my favorite topics. And I think we don't have another urgent question, do we? Okay. I'm going to take one more question here from Galina Fed. I'm going to put that in here. From YouTube. New realities and self-actualization. Is there a link? That is a good question. I think that new realities and learning things there can lead me to realize things. Again, I am more with psychologists like Kahneman and others who have said that, you know, our real experience are so intertwined with everything: smelling, hearing, feeling, goosebumps, right? Seeing, everything, that to substitute that experience will be extremely difficult. And we've seen countless stories on this. But then again, can I discover something and realize something in a virtual way? I think I can. It's just different. And I think our real realizations between people happen in real life, and that would probably never really change. So the way I look at technology, it's a catalyst, right? It's a power tool. I can do big things. Technology should not lead me to believe that I can be everything, that I can be superhuman. You know, superhumanity is really not good humanity, I don't think. These are just super tools, and I would use them as such. So I'm going to wrap up here with this, and I want to thank you very much for tuning in. It's been great having you here. And please do watch my movie, thegoodfuturefilm.com, and send feedback if you have any. And I'm going to see you for the next GerdTalks. We think it's going to be probably about 3 weeks, same time as usual. If you have any feedback, what to improve, apart from the amazing tools that we have here with my 47 monitors, then drop me a note at gerd@thefuturesagency.com. Thanks very much for tuning in. Thanks for my team to support me with all the stuff that we've done. And thanks for all my connections on LinkedIn and YouTube to tune in and to do all that stuff with me. So live long and prosper. I'm going to give you the trailer one more time, and let's talk soon. Thanks very much for tuning in. Are you excited about the future, or are you worried? Are you expecting good things or more misery? You know, these days when we look around, it seems like the future is pretty bleak. Netflix and Hollywood keep telling us stories about dystopia. Television tells us stories about more financial decline, more climate change disasters, clueless CEOs and politicians, and of course, in the end, the robots will take our jobs and then they will harvest our bodies for energy. But despite all that noise, I'm here to tell you that the future is better than we think. I believe in the future where human ingenuity, science, and technology will and can solve our most important problems. I believe in a future where human kindness and our ability to collaborate will win. But we're running out of time because the future is arriving faster than we think. In fact, the future is already here, we just haven't noticed. Science fiction is becoming science fact, and we are at a fork in the road. The next 10 years is going to bring more change than the previous 100 years. We must make the right decisions now if we want a good future.